It was a quiet afternoon by the riverside when Thomas Hargreaves, a retired schoolteacher living in the English countryside, heard faint, desperate cries. At first, he thought it was a bird, but the sound was too raw, too urgent. Curious and concerned, he followed the noise through tall grass until he reached a twisted section of wire fencing near the edge of his property. There, struggling helplessly with its tiny limbs tangled in the wire, was a baby otter, mud-caked, shivering, and wide-eyed with fear. The sight broke his heart. "It looked at me like it had already given up," Thomas later said, his voice wavering. There was this unbearable sadness in its eyes. Carefully, he pried apart the wires and gently scooped the trembling creature into an old wool blanket. The otter didn't resist. It simply lay still, exhausted and weak. Thomas brought it home and placed it in a cardboard box near the fireplace. He called the local wildlife rescue center, but was told that due to capacity issues, they couldn't take in any new animals that week. With no other option, Thomas decided to care for the otter himself, at least until he could find a suitable sanctuary. He named her Willow. Those first few days were touch and go. Willow refused to eat, her tiny body barely responding to warmth or gentle encouragement. Thomas spent hours coaxing her to take small sips of warm milk and hand-feeding her soft fish fillets. Gradually, her strength returned, and with it, a playful spirit began to emerge. Within a month, Willow had transformed. She would follow Thomas around the garden, tumbling over her own feet, hiding under flower pots, or splashing in a makeshift pond he built for her using an old plastic tub. She'd chirp excitedly whenever she saw him and curl up at his feet like a devoted pup. Though he'd initially intended to release her back into the wild, Thomas began to wonder if she had already chosen her new home. Willow showed no interest in venturing beyond the garden's edge. More importantly, she seemed to trust him completely. Over the months, their bond deepened. "She filled a silence I didn't even know I had," Thomas admitted. After losing his wife 3 years ago, the house had grown painfully quiet. Willow's mischief and gentle presence brought life back to his days. Friends who visited often remarked on the unusual but heartwarming companionship between the man and the otter. Eventually, Thomas made the decision to keep her, formally applying for a special wildlife care permit, which was granted due to the unique circumstances. Today, Willow is a beloved part of the village. She accompanies Thomas on slow walks, perches beside him as he reads by the fire, and even has her own spot at the kitchen table, though she's more interested in fish than tea and biscuits. What started as a moment of compassion at a rusty fence has grown into a bond that neither expected but both desperately needed. "She saved me just as much as I saved her," Thomas says, with a smile that creases his weathered face. "Some souls just find each other, don't they?"